I found the first empty tent 3 hours after sunrise. It wasn't ripped apart. There wasn't a drop of blood. The campfire was still warm. Coffee sat beside the folding chair, still steaming in the cold mountain air. A phone lay on an unopened sleeping bag, connected to a portable charger that was somehow still charging despite having no power source attached. For backpacks were lined up neatly beside the tent. For pairs of hiking boots sat outside the entrance. For people had camped there. Not one of them was anywhere in the forest. That wasn't the strange part. The strange part was the footprint that stopped halfway to the trees. One set of prints. A right boot. A left boot. A right boot. Then, nothing. No drag marks. No animal tracks. No signs of panic. Just one final footprint pressed into the dirt, as if whoever made it had simply stopped existing. If you're planning a camping trip to Black Alder National Forest after hearing this story, don't. Because after 8 years working as a park ranger, I can tell you something the Park Service will never admit. People don't disappear here. The forest gives them back. Just, not the parts that matter. My name is Caleb Mercer. I worked as a backcountry ranger in Black Alder National Forest for nearly 8 years before I quit. Officially, I resigned because of stress. That's what my personnel file says. That's what my family believes. It's easier than telling them the truth. Because if I told them why I really left, they'd either think I'd lost my mind, or they'd drive to Black Alder themselves. And I can't let that happen. Black Alder sits in northern Montana. On paper, it's an ordinary national forest. 300,000 acres of pine, granite ridges, alpine lakes, and hiking trails. Families visit every summer. Photographers love in autumn. Backpackers disappear there every year. The official explanation is always the same. Exposure. Falls. Wildlife. People underestimate the wilderness. I've helped write some of those reports myself. Most of them were lies. The first week I arrived, the senior ranger handed me a laminated sheet. Every ranger carried one. At first glance, it looked like standard safety procedures. Bear protocol, fire restrictions, emergency frequencies. Then I reached the bottom. The final rule wasn't numbered. Someone had typed it later. Different font, different printer. Almost like someone wanted it to stand out. It said, if you find an abandoned campsite where the fire is still burning, do not search beyond the tree line. Mark the location. Leave immediately. I laughed. The senior ranger didn't. He quietly took the sheet back from me. You won't think it's funny later. I assumed it was another ranger tradition. Every park has stories. Ghost trails. Haunted cabins. Old mines. Something to scare rookies. I forgot about the rule within a week. Until the radio call. Possible abandoned campsite. Sector 12. No contact with occupants. Dispatch sounded calm. Routine. I grabbed my gear and drove north with another ranger named Noah Briggs. Noah had worked Black Alder for nearly 15 years. Quiet. Efficient. The kind of man who noticed everything. He didn't waste words. As we bounced along an old service road, he asked one question. Did dispatch say the fire was still burning? I checked my notebook. They did. He nodded once, then turned the truck around. I stared at him. What are you doing? We're calling it in. We're supposed to investigate. No, we're supposed to verify. That was the first time I realized Black Alder had two sets of procedures. The official ones and the real ones. We stopped nearly half a mile from the coordinates. Noah killed the engine. We walked from here. Why? So it doesn't hear us coming. I laughed. He didn't. Again, the campsite looked peaceful, almost staged. A blue dome tent, 2 camping chairs, fishing rods leaning against a tree. Breakfast halfway cooked. The smell of bacon still hung in the air. No insects touched the food. No birds landed nearby. The entire clearing felt. Paused, like time had forgotten it. Don't cross the fire pit. Noah's voice was barely above a whisper. I looked at him. What? Just don't. He stayed behind the blackened stones surrounding the fire. I did the same. The flames barely moved, even though wind blew through the trees. I counted 4 sleeping bags, 4 water bottles, 4 toothbrushes, family-sized food supplies. No signs of struggle, nothing stolen. Even wallets sat inside the open tent. Cash untouched, phones fully charged. One phone buzzed. Incoming call. MOM. It rang 3 times. Stopped. A second later, it rang again. Only this time, the caller ID had changed. It now read, "Home." Noah immediately grabbed my wrist. "Don't answer." I wasn't going to. Good, because they already did. I frowned. "What?" He pointed toward the forest. Someone else's phone was ringing, deep among the trees. Same ringtone, same vibration pattern. Impossible. The sound moved, not closer, around us, like someone carrying the phone was walking in a perfect circle beyond the tree line. Then another phone started ringing. Then another. Different ringtones, different directions. At least 4. Exactly the number of missing campers. I felt the hairs on my neck rise. "Noah." He slowly raised one finger. "Listen." Between the ringing phones, I heard voices, too faint to understand, almost carried by the wind. Almost. Then one sentence became clear. "We're over here." It sounded like a frightened woman. Then another voice. "Please hurry." A child. Then a man. "We can see you." I instinctively looked toward the trees. Nothing. Just endless pine trunks. No movement. Noah grabbed the orange survey tape from his pack. He wrapped it around a nearby tree. Then another. Then another, creating a bright boundary around the campsite. "What are you doing?" "Making sure they know we're not to cross." "Who's they?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his radio. "Dispatch. This is Ranger Briggs. Confirming an active return. 4 occupants missing. Fire still lit." Long pause. Then dispatch replied with words that made my stomach turn. "Understood. Recovery team is already en route." Recovery team, not search team. I stared at Noah. "We're not looking for them." He looked toward the untouched fire. Without taking his eyes off the flames, he quietly said, "No, we're waiting to see what the forest brings back." And somewhere beyond the tree line, one of the ringing phones suddenly stopped. Another began moving toward us. The ringing grew louder, not steadily. It came in bursts, like whoever carried the phone wasn't walking. They were appearing closer each time it rang. 50 yards, then 30, then 15. No footsteps, no snapping branches, just a ringtone. Every few seconds. Closer. Noah never reached for his weapon. Instead, he pulled a small spiral notebook from his vest. The cover was stained with mud and rain. He flipped to a page filled with dates. Without looking at me, he asked, "What day is it?" "September 19th. He wrote something, then quietly said, "That's the 3rd return this month." The ringtone stopped. Silence crashed over the clearing. Even the wind disappeared. The fire no longer crackled. The forest had become so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Then, the tent zipper moved, very slowly. Nobody touched it. It slid open from the inside. Every muscle in my body locked. The tent had been empty. I looked inside myself. Sleeping bags, pillows, nothing else. Now, something inside was trying to come out. The zipper reached the top. A hand appeared, pale, covered in dirt. Human. The fingers gripped the tent flap. Then a young woman crawled into the daylight. She couldn't have been older than 25. Brown hiking clothes, blonde ponytail, small scrape across her cheek. Exactly what you'd expect after spending a night camping. She looked exhausted, confused, completely normal. She looked directly at us. Oh, thank God. I thought nobody was coming. I instinctively stepped forward. Noah blocked me with one arm. "Stay behind the fire." The woman frowned. "What?" "My husband. My son. They went looking for help. They should have been back by now." Her voice shook. Tears filled her eyes. Everything about her felt genuine. She took one step toward us. The fire suddenly flared, straight upward, nearly 6 feet high, without fuel, without wind. The flames became dark, almost black. The woman froze. Her smile disappeared. For 1 second, her face didn't belong to her anymore. It shifted, not dramatically, just enough, like someone else's expression briefly pushed through her skin. Then it was gone. Noah whispered, "Do not answer any personal questions." "What?" "You'll understand." The woman looked directly at me. "What's your name?" I almost answered automatically. Noah squeezed my shoulder, hard, when I stayed silent. The woman's expression changed again. She looked disappointed, not frightened, not desperate, disappointed. She tried again. Please. My little boy is still out there. Can you help me? Noah finally spoke. Where's your campsite permit? She blinked. What? Your permit? You registered at the visitor center. Show me. The woman stared at him for nearly 10 seconds. Then, she smiled. Too wide. I don't remember. Noah nodded. As expected, he keyed his radio. Dispatch. Subject failed permit verification. Long pause. Dispatch answered immediately. Recovery authorized. Recovery. Again. Not rescue. The woman looked toward the radio, then back at us. Something changed. She stood a little straighter. The exhaustion vanished. Her breathing stopped. Literally stopped. Her chest no longer moved. Then she spoke. Except, her lips didn't move. The voice came from somewhere behind her, deeper inside the forest. Why won't you come closer? Every tree around the clearing answered. Not with words, with echoes. Closer, closer, closer. I turned slowly. Shapes stood between the trees, far enough away that I couldn't make out faces. There were 4 of them. 1 adult man, 1 adult woman, a teenage girl, a small boy, exactly matching the missing family. None of them moved. The woman standing beside the tent smiled again. Only now, the people in the forest smiled too. At the exact same time, Noah quietly handed me a small mirror from his pack. Look at her. In this. Confused, I held it up. The reflection nearly made me drop it. The campsite behind her reflected perfectly. The fire reflected perfectly. The tents reflected perfectly. She didn't. There was nothing where she should have been. Only empty air. My breathing became uneven. No, I know. Keep looking. Something else appeared in the mirror, standing directly behind me, close enough that I should have felt it breathing. A park ranger, old uniform, wide-brimmed hat, face hidden in shadow. One hand rested lightly on my shoulder. I spun around. Nothing. Nobody. The mirror still showed him, standing exactly where I turned, watching me. Noah saw my expression. You saw him. I nodded. He looked strangely relieved. Good. He isn't hunting you. Yet. Before I could ask what that meant, the woman spoke again. Except this time, she used Noah's voice. Perfectly. Caleb, cross the fire. I looked at Noah. His mouth hadn't moved. The woman smiled wider. Then she used my own voice. Word for word. I think she's real. I want to help her. Hearing my own voice come from someone else's mouth made my stomach turn. Then the little boy among the trees raised one hand. He waved, not at Noah, at me, slowly, patiently, like he'd been waiting all morning. Then he quietly asked, "Did you find my tent?" I froze. Nobody had mentioned a little boy. Dispatch never gave names. No news reports. Nothing. Yet somehow, he knew exactly what we'd come looking for. And before I could process that, the zipper on the second tent began opening from the inside. The zipper moved slowly, not with the jerky motion of someone trapped inside. It opened smoothly, deliberately, as if whoever was inside wanted us to watch every inch of it. I counted my own breathing. 1, 2, 3. The opening reached the top. Nothing came out. For several long seconds, the tent just sat there, open, waiting. Then something crawled into view. A hand, small, a child's. Mud covered the fingers. The nails were packed with dirt. It gripped the edge of the tent. A little boy pulled himself outside. 8, maybe 9 years old. Red jacket, blue baseball cap. Exactly the same child standing silently among the trees. Except, this one was crying. He looked straight at us. Please. My mom said not to leave. I got lost. His voice cracked exactly the way a frightened child should. Every instinct inside me screamed to run to him. Noah stepped directly in front of me. Don't move. It's just a kid. No, it's what learned to become one. The boy sniffled. You can help me. You help people. You're a ranger. His words hit harder than I expected, because he was right. Helping lost people was literally my job. Standing there doing nothing felt wrong. Cruel. Then he said my name. Not Ranger. Not Sir. Caleb. I hadn't told him. Neither had Noah. The boy smiled. A tiny, hopeful smile. My dad says you're coming. Behind him, the family, standing among the trees, disappeared. Not by walking away. They simply weren't there anymore. Only the boy remained. The mirror in my hand suddenly cracked. A single line spread across the glass. In a broken reflection, the crying boy wasn't crying. He stood perfectly still, grinning. Behind him, dozens of people crowded inside the tent, watching us. I nearly dropped the mirror. Noah snatched it away. "Don't look again." "Why?" "Because they'll notice." "They?" "The ones inside." The tent suddenly bulged outward, like someone else inside had stood up. Then another bulge. Then another. There couldn't have been more than 4 people camping here. Yet the canvas kept stretching. Dozens of silhouettes pressed against the fabric from within, trying to get out. The little boy looked over his shoulder. His smile faded. "They're waking up." Noah cursed under his breath. "We're out of time." He reached into his pack and pulled out a bright orange emergency flare. Not the flare gun, a handheld marine flare. He struck it. Brilliant red light flooded the clearing. The reaction was immediate. Every silhouette inside the tents froze. The boy covered his face. The woman near the fire screamed. Except, it wasn't pain. It sounded more like anger. The fire pit exploded. Not outward, upward. A column of black flame shot nearly 20 feet into the air. Within it, I saw faces. Dozens, all screaming silently. The radios all activated together. Not ours. The missing family's phones. Every phone began broadcasting. Voices overlapped. Adults, children, old people, some crying, some laughing. One voice repeated over and over, "Don't let them unzip the last tent." I looked. There had only been 2 tents. Now there were 3. The third one hadn't been there 30 seconds ago. It sat at the edge of the clearing. Old, sun-bleached, rotting. The kind of canvas tent parks stopped using decades ago. Across the front, someone had painted one word, "Rangers." Its zipper was already halfway open. Something inside knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. Exactly 3. Noah grabbed my arm. "We leave." "What about?" "We leave. Now." We backed toward the trail, never turning around, never taking our eyes off the clearing. The woman smiled. The boy smiled. The third tent kept opening. Slowly, steadily. Then someone stepped out. A park ranger. Green uniform. Wide-brimmed hat. Badge. Radio. Everything looked official. His face remained hidden beneath the brim. He raised one hand and waved. Noah stopped walking. His face lost all color. "What?" He whispered something so quietly I almost missed it. "That's Owen." "Who's Owen?" "My training officer. I buried him 9 years ago." The ranger lifted his head. His face came into the sunlight. Not rotten, not injured, perfectly healthy, middle-aged, calm. He smiled warmly. "Noah, you're late." Noah staggered backward. His breathing became uneven. "No." Owen laughed softly. "You've been gone long enough. Come back to work." Then every ranger radio in our packs transmitted simultaneously. Not dispatch, not static. A calm male voice. "Attention all units. Recovery complete. Empty campsite returned. One ranger still outstanding." The words echoed through the forest. One ranger. Outstanding. I looked around. No one was missing. Then, I noticed something impossible. There was only one shadow beside me. Mine. Noah wasn't casting one anymore. He looked down at the ground. Saw it too. His face turned white. Owen smiled wider. "I told you. You've already been back once." Noah suddenly shoved me with every ounce of strength he had. "Run!" I stumbled onto the trail. The moment both my boots crossed the orange survey tape, the entire clearing disappeared. Not faded, not hidden by fog. Gone. No tents, no fire, no family, no ranger. Only untouched forest, as though the campsite had never existed. Panting, I turned to Noah. He stood beside me, shaking, alive. His shadow had returned. For now. He looked at me with eyes full of genuine fear, then quietly asked, "Caleb, when you looked at Owen, did he still have my face?" I didn't answer him, because I honestly didn't know. For one horrifying second, I'd been so focused on Owen's uniform that I hadn't noticed his face clearly. Now I couldn't remember what I'd actually seen. Every time I tried to picture it, it changed. Sometimes it was Owen. Sometimes it was Noah. Once, It was mine. Noah immediately understood my silence. He looked away. Don't try. What? Remembering. The forest likes that. We walked back toward the truck without saying another word. Neither of us looked behind us. Neither of us spoke until the service road came into view. Only then did Noah finally stop. He took the laminated rule sheet from his pocket, the same one every ranger carried. He crossed something out with a black marker. I frowned. What are you doing? They changed it. He handed me the card. Someone had written a new sentence across the bottom. The ink looked fresh. It hadn't been there that morning. Never trust a campsite that still has the correct number of tents. My stomach tightened. There had been 3 tents when we left. For campers, 3 tents. That wasn't right. I was certain there had originally been 2. Or, had there? For the first time all day, I wasn't completely sure. Back at headquarters, Helen was waiting. She looked relieved to see both of us. Then she counted again. Her expression changed. You came back with 3. I turned around. Only Noah stood behind me. What? Helen frowned. Never mind. She rubbed her eyes. I must be tired. That wasn't the first time someone at Black Alder counted wrong. It wouldn't be the last. The recovery report took less than 5 minutes. No detailed investigation. No search plan. Just one line. Site successfully reclaimed. Reclaimed. Not cleared. Not processed. Reclaimed. I asked Helen what that meant. She closed the file without answering. Later that evening, I wandered into the evidence room. Every abandoned campsite had its own storage shelf. Recovered backpacks, wallets, phones, wedding rings, children's toys, everything left behind. Nothing ever returned to the families. Officially, most of the items were listed as unrecoverable. That wasn't true. They were all here. One shelf caught my attention. It contained 4 hiking backpacks, exactly like the ones from the campsite. A family photograph rested beside them. Father, mother, teenage daughter, young son, smiling in front of the park entrance sign. I flipped the picture over. Missing since 2011. I stared. The family we just found had vanished yesterday. Not 13 years ago. I carried the photo into Helen's office. This date is wrong. She looked at it. No, it isn't. They disappeared yesterday. She slowly shook her head. No, Caleb. You met them yesterday. I laughed nervously. No, the permit was dated this week. She opened a filing cabinet, pulled out a weathered incident report. The same family, same names, same photographs, same campsite, filed 13 years earlier. My mouth went dry. No, that's impossible. So, is this forest? She slid another folder across the desk. Then another. Then another. Every few years, another ranger team reported finding the exact same campsite. Same blue tents. Same warm fire. Same untouched breakfast. Same family. Every report ended the same way. Recovery complete. How many times? I asked. Helen looked toward the window. Enough that we stopped trying to save them. The room fell silent. Finally, she spoke again. Do you know why we call them returns? I shook my head. Because the forest doesn't replay events. It reuses them. That sentence stayed with me all night. At 1:43 a.m., dispatch called every ranger back to headquarters. Emergency meeting. No explanation. When I arrived, every map in the operations room had been removed from the walls. Rolled up. Locked away. Only one remained. A satellite map of the entire forest. Something was wrong with it. The western boundary had moved. One ranger pointed at the screen. That's not where the river is. Another shook his head. The ridge is missing. No, the ridge wasn't missing. It had moved 3 miles east. The GPS data confirmed it. Entire sections of Black Alder no longer matched government surveys. Trails shifted. Streams changed direction. Elevation markers were wrong. It was as if the forest had quietly rearranged itself overnight. Then dispatch received another emergency call. Panicked. A man's voice. We're trapped. My family's gone. We found their tents, but... Helen immediately muted the speaker. Nobody moved. I stared at her. Why'd you stop it? She looked almost sick. Because... He's calling from the same campsite. The timestamp on the emergency call read 11:14 a.m. Tomorrow. Nobody spoke. The dispatcher rewound the digital recording. Same timestamp. Tomorrow. Same coordinates. Same terrified voice. Calling from a day that hadn't happened yet. Then the radio crackled again. The man shouted over the static. "If you can hear this, don't let Ranger Mercer answer the tents." Every eye in the room slowly turned toward me. Before I could say a word, the station's emergency weather monitor switched itself on. No one had touched it. Across the screen, bright red warning text began typing itself one letter at a time. Sunset expected, 2:07 p.m. I looked out the window. It was only 9:18 in the morning. The sun was already starting to go down. At first, I thought it was a reflection, some trick of the light. But every ranger in the room had already stopped talking. Every one of them was staring through the windows. The shadows outside were growing longer. Fast. Too fast. The sun wasn't moving across the sky. It was dropping. The weather monitor beeped again. A new line appeared beneath the warning. Trails will update in 2:46. A countdown started. 2 minutes. 46 seconds. What happens when it reaches 0? I asked. Nobody answered. Not because they didn't want to, because they already knew. Helen unlocked a steel cabinet mounted beside dispatch. Inside were dozens of rolled-up paper maps, every one stamped with a different date. She ignored the current year's map. Instead, she pulled out one marked Temporary, Sunset Edition. She spread it across the operations table. The room immediately felt colder. The map looked nothing like Black Alder. Entire valleys had vanished. Lakes had moved. Roads ended in empty forest. Only one thing stayed the same. The ranger station. It sat in the middle, surrounded by a thick red circle. Noah leaned over the table. "It's closer." Helen nodded. "It gets closer every sunset." "What gets closer?" She looked at me. "The edge." Nobody explained. There wasn't time. The countdown reached 2 minutes. Outside, the afternoon light had become orange. Birdsong stopped. Even the wind disappeared. Then the radios all chirped. Not one, all of them. Every ranger on every frequency heard the same transmission. "Attention, all personnel. Trail updates beginning. Please remain at your assigned station." The voice sounded friendly, almost comforting. I had never heard it before. Neither had anyone else. The station lights flickered. Every computer monitor shut off, then restarted. Instead of maps, they displayed personnel files. Mine appeared first. Name, Caleb Mercer. Status, active. Assignment, pending return. What the hell? I whispered. Every monitor showed a different ranger. Noah, Helen, dispatch, maintenance. Each profile contained the same final line. Pending return. Except one. Helen's. Her status read. Delayed. Noah noticed it too. What does delayed mean? Helen didn't answer. She simply folded the Sunset Edition map. The countdown reached 1 minute. Then, the first scream came over the radio. It wasn't static. It wasn't interference. It was a real person. A ranger. Male. Terrified. Trail 8 disappeared. Another voice. "We can't find a road." Another. "The trees are moving." Then, silence. Every transmission ended at exactly the same time. Dispatch tried calling them back. Nothing. Not even static. Their GPS trackers all remained active. Still moving. Except, they weren't moving on any trail. They were moving through blank space. Areas where no paths existed. The countdown reached 30 seconds. Helen looked at everyone. "If you're outside when the update finishes, don't follow the trail you remember." 20 seconds. 15. 10. The weather monitor flashed bright white. Trail update complete. The entire building shook. Only once. Like something enormous had settled beneath it. Every digital map refreshed. Half the trails vanished. 5 completely new ones appeared. One of them ran directly through the ranger station itself. My stomach dropped. The station wasn't beside the trail anymore. According to every map, it had become part of one. Outside, a wooden sign stood where the parking lot entrance had been. Nobody had put it there. Fresh timber, fresh paint, still dripping. It read, Trail 14, Ranger access only. That trail had never existed. Noah stepped toward the window, then froze. "Caleb." I joined him. A line of hikers was walking toward headquarters. Maybe 30 people. Families. Couples. Solo backpackers. Perfectly ordinary. They smiled, talked, laughed. None of them noticed anything strange. Then I realized something. Every one of them carried an identical green trail map. The new one. None of them had entered through the main road. They had emerged directly from Trail 14. Helen quietly cursed. They're inside already. What do you mean? They shouldn't be here. The park's closed. The hikers reached the station. One older man waved cheerfully. Afternoon. We're looking for Mercer's Crossing. Every ranger in the room went silent. Helen forced a smile. That trail doesn't exist. The old man laughed. Sure it does. My grandson found it online. He unfolded his brochure. It was printed by the National Park Service. Official logo. Official website. Official safety warnings. Everything looked legitimate, except the trail map. Mercer's Crossing sat right in the center, marked as Black Alder's most popular family hike. The publication date printed on the bottom read, September 19th. Today's date. I checked our official brochures. Mercer's Crossing wasn't listed. Not on a single one. The old man looked confused. You people okay? You look like you've never heard of it. Before Helen could answer, a little girl tugged on her father's sleeve. Daddy, she pointed toward me. That's him. The father frowned. Who's him? She smiled innocently. The ranger from my dream. Every hiker stopped talking. Slowly, every single one of them turned to look at me. At exactly the same time. No one spoke. No one blinked. Just 30 smiling strangers, staring silently through the station windows. Then, without warning, they all raised one hand and pointed past me, toward the hallway leading to the evidence room. Behind me, a door I'd never seen before, slowly creaked open. The hallway had never had a door. I'd walked that corridor every day for almost a year. Evidence room on the left. Supply closet on the right. Concrete wall at the end. That was it. Now there was a heavy wooden door where solid concrete should have been. Dark green paint. Old brass handle. A weathered metal plaque. Archive B. No one moved. Not even Helen. The hikers outside kept pointing. Every single one of them. Still smiling. Still silent. It was like they couldn't do anything else until someone opened that door. The handle turned by itself. Slowly, the door swung inward. A warm breeze drifted out. It smelled like pine needles, with smoke and fresh coffee, exactly like the abandoned campsite. Noah whispered, "It wasn't here yesterday." Helen corrected him. "It wasn't here 10 seconds ago." Then a radio inside the room crackled. Clear as day. Dispatch to Ranger Mercer. Your report is overdue. Everyone looked at me. My radio hadn't moved. The voice was coming from inside the new room. Using my personal call sign, Helen stepped in front of me. No one enters. The radio answered immediately. Correction. Ranger Mercer enters. Every light in headquarters dimmed. The emergency generator hadn't failed. It was as if the building itself had grown darker. The room beyond the doorway stayed brightly lit. I looked inside. At first I thought I was seeing another office. Same desks, same filing cabinets, same radio equipment. Then I noticed the photographs hanging on the walls. Dozens of framed staff photos. Every ranger who had ever worked Black Alder. Grouped by year. I walked closer without realizing it. Every photograph contained one thing in common. Me. Different ages. Different hairstyles. Different uniforms. But always me. Standing somewhere among the staff. Always smiling. I whispered, "That's impossible." Helen grabbed my arm. "Don't look at them too long." "Why?" "They'll become memories." Before I could ask what she meant, I recognized one of the pictures. It showed me standing beside Noah. We were shaking hands, both smiling. The caption underneath read, "Ranger Caleb Mercer promoted to Senior Ranger, April 14, 2017. I'd never been promoted. In 2017, I was still in college. My head suddenly hurt, a sharp pain behind my eyes. Without warning, I remembered something, a memory, crystal clear. Noah teaching me how to repair a fire lookout tower. Snow falling, coffee boiling over a camp stove. We laughed because I dropped a wrench off the platform. I remembered every detail, every smell, every word. The problem. None of it had ever happened. I stumbled backward. The memory disappeared instantly, like waking from a dream. Noah caught me. You remembered something. How did you know? He looked away. Because it happened to me. He slowly rolled up his sleeve. There was a tattoo on his forearm. Coordinates. I never noticed it before. What are those? He answered quietly. The place where I first remembered another life. Helen finally stepped into the room. Only one step. Nothing happened. She looked relieved. Then, every clock inside headquarters stopped. Exactly 2:07. The same time the weather monitor had predicted sunset. A filing cabinet drawer slid open by itself. One folder slowly rose upright. Its tab read, Mercer, active. It floated forward, stopped directly in front of me. Opened. Inside weren't personnel records. They were photographs. Thousands of them. Me. At campsites. Fire towers. Search operations. Mountain rescues. Decades worth. Some photographs looked ancient. Black and white. Others hadn't even happened yet. One showed me much older. Gray beard. Standing beside a trail sign that read, Mercer's Crossing. Established. 2064. I dropped the folder. Pictures scattered across the floor. Every photograph landed face up. Every version of me looked toward the same place. Something behind the camera. Something none of us could see. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy. Boots. Not one person. Many. Dispatch looked at the security monitors. The hikers outside were gone. The parking lot was empty. Every vehicle remained. No people. No footprints. Nothing. The footsteps reached the lobby. The front doors opened. No one appeared. Only the sound continued. Marching. Straight toward us. One by one, the footsteps entered the hallway. Invisible. Yet every ranger could hear them. Closer. 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 Then, the hallway carpet compressed, as though unseen boots were stepping across it. Dozens of them, making fresh footprints in the dust. They stopped outside Archive B. The room fell completely silent. Then someone invisible knocked. 3 slow knocks. From the inside of the hallway wall. Not the door. The wall itself. A calm voice echoed through the building. Roll call. Every radio answered automatically. One after another. Present. 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 Even radios sitting inside locked evidence bags began replying. Then, my radio turned on by itself. I grabbed it before it could transmit. Too late. In my own voice. It answered. Present. The invisible footsteps immediately resumed. This time, they were coming directly toward me. The footsteps stopped less than a foot away. I couldn't see anyone, but I could feel them. The air in front of me grew colder, like someone was standing close enough to block my body heat. My radio crackled again, not from the speaker, from inside it, like something trapped beneath the plastic casing was trying to speak. Then it whispered, turn around. I didn't, neither did anyone else. Helen slowly reached into her pocket and removed a small brass whistle. Old, worn smooth from years of use. She blew one short note. The invisible presence backed away. Not far, just enough that I could breathe again. I looked at her. What was that? She answered without taking her eyes off the hallway. Attendants. The footsteps continued retreating until they reached the lobby. Then, they simply vanished. Everyone exhaled at the same time. For exactly 3 seconds, I thought it was over. Then every light in Archive B went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Only one thing remained visible. The photographs scattered across the floor. They glowed faintly. Every single one by one, the people inside the pictures started moving. Not much, just enough. A ranger blinked. Someone turned their head. A child waved. A woman smiled. The photographs weren't photographs anymore. They were windows. One image caught my attention. It showed me standing beside a fire tower. Behind me, someone stepped out of the tree line. I hadn't noticed them before. The figure slowly raised one hand, pointing directly at me. Not the version inside the picture. Me, standing in a room. The glass cracked. A hand pushed through. Real. Solid. Gray skin. Long fingers. Park ranger uniform sleeve. The hand reached for my boot. Noah swung an axe. The blade smashed through the frame. The photograph shattered. The hand disappeared instantly. Every other photograph began cracking. at once, like something behind all of them was trying to get out together. Helen shouted, "Burn them!" Dispatch grabbed a bottle of alcohol. I knocked over a lantern. Flames spread across the photographs. The fire burned blue, not orange, blue. Every picture screamed, not people, the paper itself. The screams echoed through the building. Outside, sirens began sounding. Not police, not ambulances, park warning sirens, the ones used only during catastrophic wildfires. Except there wasn't a fire. Dispatch checked the cameras. Every trailhead gate had opened. Automatically, the park was welcoming people in. "No," Helen whispered. "They're opening every entrance." The emergency phone rang. The direct line from Washington. Helen answered immediately. She never spoke. She only listened. Her face slowly drained of color. When she finally hung up, she looked at all of us. "They've lost every map." What? The satellite network, the digital surveys, the GPS archive. They don't know where Black Alder ends anymore. Silence. Then Noah quietly asked, "Do they know where it begins?" Helen didn't answer. She didn't have to. The building suddenly shook again. Harder this time. Ceiling tiles crashed onto the floor. Concrete walls groaned. The entire ranger station shifted several inches sideways. One of the dispatchers looked out the window. "Oh God," I followed his gaze. The parking lot wasn't outside anymore. The forest was. Tree trunks stood less than 10 feet from the front door. The ranger station hadn't moved. Or the forest had. Then we heard engines. Dozens. Vehicles approaching. Relief washed over me. Finally, backup. A convoy of Park Service trucks emerged from between the trees. 10 vehicles. Every one identical. Every one carrying official markings. Everyone stopped perfectly in line. The driver's doors opened. Rangers stepped out. 20 of them. Uniforms spotless. Equipment perfect. Not one spoke. Helen whispered, "Don't wave." I looked closer. Every ranger wore a name tag. Every name belonged to someone listed as missing over the last 40 years. Then, one final truck arrived. It parked closest to headquarters. The driver stepped out. I couldn't breathe. He was me, not my duplicate from Mercer's ranger station. Older, maybe 50, scar across his forehead, gray beginning to show in his beard. He removed his hat, looked directly at me, then smiled with unmistakable relief. "There you are. I've been looking for you. For 23 years." He reached into the truck, pulled out a folded paper map, opened it, pointed to one small red circle near the center. "I finally found where you disappeared." For a moment, I actually believed him. His face carried the kind of exhaustion you only earn after years of searching. Not anger, not cruelty. Hope, the terrifying kind, like someone who had finally found what they'd been missing. He held the map out toward me. "Take it. You'll remember." Helen screamed. "No." She fired 3 rounds through the front window. The bullets shattered the glass. None of them hit him. Not because they missed, because he wasn't standing where the bullets thought he was. Each round curved, bent, and buried itself harmlessly into the dirt. The older version of me sighed. "You always make this difficult." He folded the map. The moment he did, every trail visible outside the station shifted again. Entire hills folded like paper. The forest wasn't changing anymore. It was being folded into itself. The convoy of silent rangers began walking toward headquarters. Perfectly synchronized. Not running. Not rushing. Just walking. Like they knew we had nowhere left to go. Noah shoved a bundle into my hands. It was the Sunset Edition map. The paper map. They can't rewrite it while you're holding it. "What about you?" He smiled sadly. They already did. I finally understood. That tattoo on his arm. The missing shadow. The memories that weren't his. Noah hadn't survived Black Alder years ago. Part of him had. The rest had stayed. Helen threw the building's emergency power switch. Every light exploded. The station plunged into darkness. Only the emergency exit signs glowed red. She grabbed my shoulder. "Run. Leave the paper map behind." "What?" "They follow maps. They don't follow people." That sounded insane. Nothing about the last 2 days had been sane. So I listened. I dropped the Sunset Edition map in the middle of the hallway. Then I ran. Behind me, The station doors burst open. Boots thundered across the floor. Dozens of them, not chasing me, heading for the map, exactly as Helen had hoped. I reached the back exit. The forest outside looked wrong. Trails crossed over one another like tangled veins. Every direction seemed equally impossible. Then I remembered something Noah had told me my first week. If the map ever changes, walk where there isn't a trail. So I did. I stepped in a thick underbrush, straight through thorn bushes, across fallen logs, ignoring every path. Branches tore my uniform. Roots caught my boots, but the footsteps behind me grew fainter. The forest became unnaturally quiet. After several minutes, I found an old fire lookout tower, collapsed, rotting. There was no trail leading to it. Only one object remained intact, a rusted metal box. Inside was a ranger's notebook. The first page read, "If you're reading this, you found the only place the forest forgets." No name, no signature, just page after page of handwritten observations. Most were impossible. Some matched everything I'd lived through. One sentence had been underlined so hard it nearly tore the paper. "The forest doesn't hunt people. It hunts their place." I read that sentence 100 times before I finally understood. The forest didn't care who you were. It cared where you belonged. If it could convince the world that your place had always been inside Black Alder, eventually, everyone else would believe it too. And once that happened, there'd be no one left to come looking for you. Search helicopters found me 36 hours later, nearly 20 miles south of headquarters. Officially, I'd been missing for 2 days. The strange part? Headquarters had no record that Helen or Noah had been with me. According to every report, I'd gone into the backcountry alone. I argued, shouted, demanded they check the radio logs, the security cameras, personnel files, everything. There was nothing. No Helen, no Noah, no Archive B, no convoy, nothing. Black Alder Ranger Station had only 12 employees, the number it had supposedly always had. I resigned 3 weeks later. No one tried to stop me. It almost felt like they were relieved I was leaving. I've spent the last 4 years trying to forget, try to convince myself it was trauma, hallucinations, stress. Then, 3 nights ago, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Black Alder's current ranger staff standing in front of headquarters, smiling. The date stamp read last month. I recognized every face except one. Standing in the middle, wearing Chief Ranger insignia, was an older man with gray in his beard, a scar across his forehead. He looked exactly like the version of me who had offered me the map. On the back of the photograph, someone had written one sentence in faded pencil. "Thanks for finding my replacement. I haven't slept since." Because every evening, just before sunset, I check the weather on my phone. Not for rain, not for temperature, for sunset. And no matter where I travel, no matter what state I'm in, the forecast always includes one extra line that disappears if I refresh the page. Black Alder sunset. Today. The time changes every day, but it gets 1 minute earlier every week. I'm terrified that one evening, the sun will set wherever I am. And when I look outside, there won't be a street, or a neighborhood, or even my own house. There'll just be a trail, and somewhere beyond the trees, I'll hear a calm voice on a ranger radio saying, "Attention, all personnel. Ranger Mercer has finally returned."